Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar for national loans for today's borrowers. Now, throughout the webinar, as questions arise, as I'm sure they will, please go ahead and use the questions little function and submit your questions. At the end of the webinar, we're going to go through all your questions and get them answered for you. My name is Rose, and with that, I will introduce today's speaker, John Cullis. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Rose, and good morning to everybody on the West, and good afternoon to everybody on the East Coast. Again, my name is John Kolitz. I'm the Regional Sales Manager in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. Also joined by Mr. Steve Moloff, who is the Director of Underwriting for our entire company. I will say Steve is one of those guys that, quite frankly, is able to get those loans that make sense loans that don't quite fit in the box to the closing table. So we're really pleased to have Steve on the call today. So thank you, Steve.
Thanks. I wish I
Our agenda today. Our agenda today. I'm going to talk briefly about LendSure, a little bit about non-QM lending, and just a brief recap of some of our products to kind of let you know some of the things that we do other than foreign national. Then going to jump into the foreign national loans. Going to talk about some real-world loan scenarios. Going to talk about where do you find foreign national loans, how to do business with LendSure, and then we're going to, of course, open it up for questions and answers. A little bit about us. So we were founded in 2015, headquartered in San Diego, California. We have an operations center in Warwick, Rhode Island, and also one in Atlanta, Georgia area. Our management team has been around a long time, has been in the industry. Probably an average senior manager is 30 years in the industry. So these are people that really know how to make loans. And I will tell you that when you look at our securitizations, the companies that are looking for our kind of paper are coming to us first. So we are very, very well respected in the industry. We're currently lending in 41 states, and we continue to grow. So the question is, a lot of people say to me, what is non-QM lending? Why should I care? We are strictly a non-QM lender. We don't do Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA. We don't do any conforming products at all. We do non-QM lending. People say, well, what is non-QM lending? Non-QM lending, I guess my best description of non-QM lending is we determine the borrower's ability to repay differently than you do in the Fannie Freddie worlds. So that's really the big difference. Then I get the question from some of the loan officers that I talk to every day, and they say, listen, we're just so darn busy right now. We really don't have time to deal with any non-QM loans. And then I ask them this question. I said, so if you close one or two more loans a year, and they happen to be non-QM, is that going to make a difference in your income? And the loan officer ultimately says to me, well, no, of course not. I'm too busy. But then I ask this question. When you talk to your realtor and you ask your realtor, if you close one or two more deals a year, is that going to make a significant impact on your income? And the answer is yes. So the game here in the non-QM game is to understand that make sure that it's your job to help your realtor be more successful, your referral source be more successful, because ultimately you're not going to have that many refis and you're going to have to rely on that real estate community, and you want them to be your advocate. The other thing is the non-QM world is growing and growing fast. A couple of our products, our Super Prime Alt-A product is kind of our flagship, owner-occ only, 680 FICO. We will, with a 720 FICO, go up to 85 LTV. The 85 will go up to 750,000. We do bank statements. We do full doc. We have an asset depletion product where we can divide eligible assets by 120, which is a very aggressive number. Find that we do a lot of these loans where we're doing a combination of income plus asset depletion to help people qualify that may not ordinarily qualify. We'll do 80 LTV up to 80 LTV for first-time home buyers and for non-warrantable condos, and we will do loans up to $3 million. Our bank statements are probably 60-65% of the business that we do. The key point here is that we will do an upfront evaluation of the income for you on bank statement loans. You don't have to guess what is the number we're going to use for the ability to repay. We will help you and provide that number to you. Unlike our competitors, we don't require a CPA letter or P&L statement. Borrowers don't have to own 100% of the business. We can use multiple business bank accounts. Big thing with us is variable expense ratios. We use common sense. We don't say that this borrower has to have a 50% expense ratio when in reality it probably should be 10 or 15. We look closely at a self-employment questionnaire and apply the correct expense ratio to help you get your loan to the closing table. And our bank statement loans do require 24-month bank statements. Do a lot of investment property loans. Interesting is that we don't have a limit on the number of properties an investor owns. We can finance on our own up to 10 loans for any one investors. DTIs up to 50. We do qualify on the start rate or the interest-only payment. Loans up to 75 LTV. We do non-warrantable condos and condotels. Full doc and bank statements. And then the other thing on our investment property loans, we also have our DSCR, our Debt Service Coverage Ratio Program loan. And the way that that works is we're determining the borrower's ability to repay solely on the property's ability to cash flow. We don't care how much they make on their job. We're not going to ask you how much they make on their job. It's based on the ability of the property to cash flow. So now I want to jump into the meat and potatoes of today's presentation. I want to talk a little bit about our foreign national program. Last year, 2019, $77.9 billion in annual purchases by foreign nationals, 183,000 transactions, 8% of them over $1 million. Just to give you an idea, that's 92,000 loans for $17 billion in volume. So there's a big opportunity here. Are you taking advantage of it? Where are these people coming from? Here's the top 5 foreign national buyers. They're from China, Canada, India, United Kingdom, and Mexico. I will say this, and I'll probably repeat this. Our account executives are really high trained, know what they're doing, know how to get the deal to the closing table people. They will walk you through this process on the foreign national as well as all of our other programs. Lean on them. They will help you get your loans to the closing table. On our foreign national, we don't require a domestic credit score. We can go up to 65 LTV, and none of our products have MI. Cash out up to 60 LTV. We can use our debt service coverage ratio for ability to repay on the foreign national. We will do non-warrantable condos, and on business purpose investment loans, we qualify on the start rate. So people ask me, well, who is a foreign national? Well, a foreign national is a non-resident alien who is not authorized to live or work in the U.S. or holds a work visa that is indicative of a more temporary residency. So in order for a borrower to be eligible to do a foreign national loan with us, they must live and work in another country and be a legal resident of that same country. Very important, they may not purchase the property and intend to use it as their primary residence. It has got to be a non-owner occupied or second home. So how do I document a foreign national? I would probably say that probably 85% of our foreign national borrowers are B1, B2 visas, but we have others, as you can see. One of the things I'd like to point out is that we have a no visa program available for investor transactions only. So what that means is that my borrower does not have a visa. They are a foreign national, but I can do it if they don't have one, if it closes in an LLC or a corporation domiciled in the U.S. with a domestic agent for service of process. So that's kind of an important thing to understand that, hey, I've got this borrower. They want to buy a place here. They don't have a visa. Is there a solution? That is the solution to that problem. Question is, okay, well, how do I evidence that the borrower is here legally? A couple of things. One, I need a copy of the borrower's valid and unexpired passport with a photo. I need a copy of the borrower's valid and unexpired visa, including the photo. Now, if the country is participating in the visa waiver program, which a lot of countries like United Kingdom, Australia, France, Germany, etc. are, where they're not required to have a visa, and there's a list available on the Department of State website, which you'll see the link on there. One of the things that I find comical about foreign national businesses, and Steve, I think you can probably say this as well, some say that documenting a foreign national loan is easier than documenting a domestic loan as far as proving income, proving credit, proving assets, etc. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That's one thing that, well, obviously we still have some standards, but in the foreign national, you can actually get a letter from the employer or a letter from a CPA describing the amount of income. So the documentation level is different, but you still require similar type documents to be able to prove the income. It's not a stated program.
Yep, agreed. So when we're verifying foreign credit, we're going to need to have 3 active trade lines with a 2-year history, no derogs. Just so you know that in some cases, we can use foreign checking and savings accounts and count as trade lines. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And to prove this, any combination of the following to get to the three trade lines. Trade lines evidenced by a U.S. credit report, or trade lines evidenced by an international credit report, and or trade lines on credit reference letters. So what are those credit reference letters, and what do they have to look like? Well, one of the reference letters must be from an internationally known financial institution, maybe HSBC, maybe Santander, maybe Citibank, any one of the nationals. Every letter must state the type and length of the relationship, how the account is held, payment amount, outstanding balance, and the status of the account. Just so you know, a single reference source may be used to provide all of the accounts. If you have one place that has 3 accounts, you can use that. We just have to have individual account detail on that letter. Important that currency must be converted to U.S. dollars and signed and dated by a certified translator. And I know somebody's going to ask this question: who pays for the translator? Either the broker or the borrower. And again, everything must be translated into English. Verifying foreign income for a wage earner. So for a wage earner, we're going to be looking for a valid pay stub or pay ledger or deposit transaction record that supports the employment, and a letter from the employer on company letterhead providing employment history, title, position, time on job, current monthly salary, year-to-date income, etc. We are going to have to verify the employer via maybe LexisNexis, B&B, Google, etc. Again, all docs must be translated by an independent certified translator. And just so you know, we do a fair amount. We've got some really, really good account executives here, a couple of Chinese-speaking account executives, and so we do a lot of Chinese borrowers, and use of Baidu is allowed, which is the Chinese Google, to determine employers, etc.
Hey, John,
But it's Steven. Yes, sir. Yes.
I was just going to throw one thing in here, just so you guys know if you're new to this. We've never had ever a problem getting the minimum trade lines and the documentation around employment on these loans. We've been doing them for at least 3.5 years now. I'd say we probably do at least 10 a month. So we've done a couple hundred, 200-300 of these foreign nationals, and it's never been a problem getting the documentation. It's fairly easy as long as you can have a decent rapport with the borrower.
Great. Thank you for that, Steve. So verifying the income for a self-employed borrower is a little bit different, and probably do more self-employed borrowers than any as far as our foreign nationals. So the self-employed borrower has to be self-employed for at least 2 years. We have to have evidence by a letter from the borrower's CPA or the local equivalent, maybe their accountant or whatever they are, and we need that on the accountant's letterhead. Needs to include how much their income is, their year-to-date income, a business license if required, organization documents. We're going to be looking for a copy of the accountant's license, and the business and the accountant must be independently verified. That's very important, but we really haven't had much difficulty being able to do that. And once again, everything must be translated by an independent certified translator. So what about the down payment and the reserves? Well, we require a minimum of 6 months reserves, just so you know that we can use gift funds. They are acceptable. We just need a letter on that. But understand that it must be transferred to a U.S. domiciled account in the borrower's name within 30 days of closing. You cannot send money directly to the closing from any foreign account. Everything has to come to the U.S. It has to go into a U.S. bank before we can go to the closing table. That is very important. Please do not forget that. Business accounts are eligible for reserves, and reserves can remain at a financial institution in the borrower's home country. So how are we verifying these assets? Well, again, may be used to source the funds to close and meet reserve requirements. The funds used for closing must be transferred to a U.S. domiciled account in the borrower's name within 30 days prior to closing. I've said that before, and I'm going to probably say it again because that's really important. So how do we document the assets that are being held in forward accounts? We're going to be looking for U.S. dollar equivalency at the current exchange rate. And you can go to www.xe.com, Wall Street Journal, etc. But we must verify the assets using U.S. dollar equivalency. We're going to be looking for the 2 most recent statements of that account. If the funds are not seasoned, we're going to be looking for an LOE, and we're going to be looking for something that comprises a 60-day chain of funds. So that's important. And again, we can use foreign assets as reserves. Just a couple of things that you need to understand as far as what's excluded. There's parties on the transaction must be cleared through OFAC's SND list. There's a list there you can see, SND search at ofac.trez. That's no big deal. I would suggest that you do that right at the beginning of the transaction to make sure that you can move forward with it. OFAC sanctioned countries are ineligible, so make sure that you take a look at that list and say, hey, can I do a deal from that guy from this country? You better check on that because we don't want to find out too late that we can't do it because the country is not recognized or they're an ineligible company or country. And then also very important is individuals with diplomatic immunity are not eligible. And again, there's another place that you can do search to find out if in fact they are immune. A couple of deals I want to go over is these are loans that we've actually closed. We had a $300,000 purchase money loan, 55 LTV, no FICO in the United States, no social security number. Bank had it. It was approved, but then it fell out. They had the appraisal. They were ready to go, except they killed it. We took their appraisal. We did this loan, and we closed it in 7 days from the submission. Collected foreign credit, foreign income, asset statements, and a photocopy of visas, and got the thing closed. I will tell you that Annie, who is one of our top account executives in the country, did this loan, and she pushed it through quick. And you know what? She's just one of many of our great account executives. So lean on them. They really know what they're doing. We had a foreign national B1, B2 visa, no FICO or social security number, $600,000 purchase price of an investment property. 65 LTV. Borrower had enough money to go to the closing table, but they did not have enough money to meet the reserves. And here's another testament to Steve and his group. They look at this loan and they say, I've got more than enough compensating factors. I really like the loan, but I don't have the reserves. So am I just going to say no because it's not inside of my box? No, we said, let's take a look at this and say, the value of that loan to us on the secondary market is going to be a little bit different. So we need to price it a little bit differently. So Steve and his group says, I'll make that exception. We need to add a quarter to the rate and close the loan. And that's what we did. So again, it's outside of the box. We can still do them. So if it's not technically inside that box, but there's compensating factors, let us know, and you'll be surprised how many things that Steve and his group can get to the closing table. Another loan here, B1, B2 visa, foreign national. Refi cash out of an investment property. The borrower, 50 LTV, borrower paid $2.8 million for this property, paid cash in April of 2018. He said, I want to get half of my money back. How can I do that? Well, here I've got another situation where he's asking me for a check at the closing table for $1.4 million, which in itself is an exception. He's also asking me to do this loan. He doesn't have enough reserves to close on this loan. But you know what we decided to do? We decided, we'll let the cash out meet our reserve requirement. We close the loan. So once again, we're going to find a way to get your loan to the closing table. Rose is the head of our marketing department, and Rose has a couple of pieces that she'd like to share with you about how do we find the referral sources and how do we find the prospects and what are the tools that we can give you that maybe help you find these kinds of borrowers.
Thank you, John. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that once you find one of these referral things, it really is worth the effort to connect with these people because, you connect with them once. They may have several deals, several referrals within the next few months. So making a relationship with these people may result in a steady stream of income down the road. So some of these referral sources, you can go to Google, you can go to LinkedIn, Facebook, and even Twitter. Look for international real estate attorneys. And what I would do is do international real estate attorney San Diego or New York or tri-state area or Florida, just to find ones that are in your local area. Find international tax attorneys in your area. Again, to put in a search and then include, your residents. And then real estate agents for blank buyers. If you want to market to Chinese buyers or, international buyers, you can do that. So another one would be CPAs for foreign national, immigration lawyers. That's a great one. And then once you as you're looking through different realty ads, look for real estate in listings in different languages. That's a huge indicator that these people work with foreign nationals. And then finally, Connect with groups such as NARUP, which is the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. They're a huge national organization, but they have local chapters all over the country. I've been to a couple of events here in California, in San Diego, and they are, we've got lenders and brokers and lots of realtors who are looking for partners. And also ARIA, which is the Asian Real Estate Association of America. Same thing. They've got online events, they've got networking events, they've got conferences. So it really is a good idea to connect with these people.
Yeah, Rose, I think that's a great idea, and I will say this: I am involved with some of those groups, and they are very good professional groups and very good to work with.
If we could go to the next slide. So what we provide, what we've done is we've created customizable marketing materials for you, so you don't have to go out there cold. So we've got a kit that has flyers that you can put your logo on and your contact information and your disclaimers. We've got postcards for you, social media banners, and even Outlook email templates, where all you need to do is open the email, put in the email address, and click send. So this is an excellent way to reach out to these people and make initial contact with them. So to access this, all you need to do is go to that URL. And yes, I'll be sending you a link to that URL in the thank you email afterwards, so you don't have to worry about writing it down. But yeah, these are available to you. And if you have any questions on how to use them, go ahead and reach out to your Lehnsherr account executive.
Thank you very much, Rose. And then, of course, the question that everybody says to me is, well, how do I do business with Lehnsherr? Well, it's pretty easy. You contact your Lehnsherr account executive, and you go over the transaction with him or her, and you say, this is the would you, could you? And they'll give you an idea as to whether or not they think that they can put the deal together. If they believe they can, then you would send the deal income, assets, credit, etc., in order to determine whether or not we can get a pre-qual. Now, the one thing that makes us different than any of our competitors is that every single pre-qual that we do is signed off on somebody that has the authority to do that loan. It's not signed off on by an account executive or a region manager or an assistant. It's signed off on somebody that can say yes to that loan. Why do we do that? We understand what the ramifications are of what we tell you. You're going to turn around, you're going to tell your borrower you're going to do something. You're going to turn around, you're going to tell your referral source that you're going to do something. If there are no material adverse changes to that transaction, you have a level of confidence to know that you can live with and move forward with that pre-qual. Once you get that pre-qual that we've given to you, you're going to sell that to your borrower. Once it's a go, then you submit the loan through our third-party origination system, 3.2 file, etc. We, as the lender, after we have we'll do the disclosures. Once we have the disclosures back and the intent to proceed, we will underwrite the loan, send you the conditional approval, collect those conditions, get them cleared, CD, close, and fund your loan. It's as easy as that. I love this statement here. Take a second to read it when you have a chance. It really tells you everything you need to know about Lehnsherr. We are a lender that knows how to make loans that are inside and outside of the box, and I will say it again. Steve Molliff's group is as good as they get. We're the best in the industry. And now I'm going to go ahead and open it up, Rose, if you want to open it up for questions.
All right, thank you so much. Now I'm getting a lot of questions. Let me just some general questions that I'm getting from multiple people. Can I have a copy of the slide deck? Yes. Look for the thank you email that you'll be getting in a couple of hours after the webinar, and that's going to have a link that you can download the slide deck with all of the notes on it. And it's also going to have a link, as I mentioned previously, to the private label resources, as well as a recording of this webinar. So you can go ahead and share that with people in your office that may not have been able to make it. John, I'm getting several questions about ITINs. Can we do them? What are the qualifications, etc.?
Well, we did have an ITIN product for a while, and we had to discontinue that. I'm hoping that at some point in the future that we'll be able to do them again. But right now, we are not doing ITINs. Steve, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I don't know of anybody out there right now doing the ITINs. Maybe some small local portfolio banks. There was a problem with some of the ITINs in the securitization market recently. and that goes along, just to be perfectly frank, with the trying to clarify previous Social Security numbers. We are working on that with some of our investors to make that available, and we're hoping that does come back, because I think we did a pretty good job vetting them out. So we currently don't have them, but we're hoping to change that within, hopefully, by the end of the summer.
Okay, and I've got a couple of questions about DSCR. The first one is DSCR loans available for foreign nationals?
Yes, they are.
That would be yes.
The key of that thing, yep, they need to be business purpose. So you just want to make sure you have that in mind when you're submitting a DSCR loan.
Okay, and next one, how can a vacation home in a short-term rental property, I guess that's like an Airbnb, fit into the DSCR program? Each month may have a different income as it is seasonal.
That's a good question, and that comes up quite a bit with the popularity of these short-term rentals now. So what we actually have a section in our guidelines specifically under the DSCR. So if it's a refinance, we simply need to get copies of if it's VRBO or whoever they're actually using to do the short-term rentals. It's very easy to get the information of what the rental history is for the last couple of years on that, so we get it that way. Also, if it's a purchase, a lot of times the seller will provide their VRBO or whatever short-term rental company they're using, that information. And then we've also had instances where we can get the 216 or the 1007, so the operating statement or the rent survey, by the appraiser to state, hey, this is in a resort area. Most of the people in the winter or the summer get X amount per month, and during the rest of the year it's lower, or they don't rent it out. So however you guys can get it documented that we can have an understanding to apply to our DSCR factor, we will certainly look at that.
Okay. I'm getting several questions about how do I submit a loan, who do I contact, etc. So if you're not, the answer would be your Lehnsherr account executive, but if you don't currently have a Lehnsherr account executive, or you don't know who it is, go ahead and just reply to the thank you email or contact me at rwaldie, WALDIE, and I will connect you with a Lehnsherr account executive. I've got a question here about funds to close. I understand the position where this fund should go to the title company through the borrower's U.S. account. However, not always realistic. Florida banks will not send wire transfers unless the borrower's in the branch. So is there a solution to that, a workaround?
Well, I understand the question, but we do a high percentage of our foreign nationals are in Florida, and we haven't had to experience the trouble. Usually if the borrower, and the reason we do this is threefold, just so you know, is when money's coming in internationally, you really want to make sure the onus on any potential money laundering issues is on someone who's regulated. So that's why we want it sent into a U.S. institution in the borrower's name, number one. Number two, with foreign nationals, we really want to have an account where we know they can set up their ACH so they can make the payments afterwards and make it convenient for them to do so. So we haven't had any trouble. We generally always want it wired in. It can wire in a day. It just has to come in sometime within 30 days prior to the close. So we're pretty open about it just going through a lending regulated institution. But if you have one that you come up with some other issue, reach out to your account executive, and they can send it up the chain and give us the details, and we'll take a look.
Okay. I know, and I'm also getting several questions with very specific loan scenarios. I'm going to go ahead and address those offline, or if you want to email those to me after the fact, because I want to make sure that we get into detail, and we don't want to give you a general answer to a very specific loan scenario. So are Canadians who want to purchase a vacation home eligible?
Absolutely. That's not a problem. We do a lot of Canadian citizens. Once again, they just have to meet the same requirements you do with the other foreign nationals. We also do, the DSCRs. A lot of times they'll do that if it's an investment property, but of course they might have if it's a VRBO, they'll use it when it's not being rented out to someone else. So not a problem. We do a lot of Canadian citizens, and we do a lot of them that also can provide bank statements. We can do that on the non-permanent resident alien program. So if I were you guys, not only do we do obviously U.S. citizens and permanent resident aliens, but we also have a non-permanent resident alien program that you get better pricing on. We take bank statements on that program. So if you have some questions really about our products, I know John covered them at a high level today, but get a hold of our account executive and have them really walk through all the products that we offer. I think you'll find what we have you'll really like.
What about someone with an F1 student visa? Would we consider that a primary residence?
The only way, well, that's a good question. We do, it in the guidelines, again, like I said, I get the exact detail, reach out to your account executive, but we do have a F1 program for that visa. And to your point, we would do those owner-occupied. However, anytime you do an owner-occupied product, you have to meet the ATR, the ability to repay. So it does require income doc. Standard.
Okay. And we've got someone here, a couple of questions on what the rates are like for foreign nationals, and one person asking why the rates are so much higher for foreign nationals than a full doc U.S. citizen.
Well, let me speak to that a little bit. When you think about a foreign national compared to a U.S. citizen or anybody that's providing income documentation here stateside, whether they be bank statements or full doc, you're actually able to verify that through a third party. You can verify that through the IRS if it's full doc. With bank statements, there are companies that also verify that that account is open. It is in this person's name. This was the most recent balance. So the deal with foreign nationals, it's a little bit different because we don't really have independent third parties in other countries that can independently identify and verify what's being presented to us is accurate. So we believe it is, but there is additional risk there. So that's one of the reasons that we do that. And that goes the same as down payment. Now, we'll allow you to source and season your funds in foreign accounts, and we really can't verify those. We believe the information presenting us is true and correct, but there is additional risk because there's only a couple things we can verify. We know the funds, if it's coming into the U.S. domiciled account, is there, and we have our collateral. Same thing for the trade lines. We're not getting those independently. It's coming through a third party. So I think most lenders just look at there is additional risk there. That's why the rates are higher.
Can you do a cash out for an investment property for a foreign national in Texas?
Well, the key in there, Texas, what you said is if it's a non-owner, it's not a problem because then you don't have all these stringent pieces about the cash out refis in Texas. So do a lot of deals in Texas too.
Embassies are closed and foreign national can only fly into the U.S. to close. How do they close? Do they mail away or POA? I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, good question. We do allow powers of attorneys, POAs. There's guidelines that have to fit that. A lot of times they are stateside and they do the signing. There's also some remote notaries that are able to do things electronically. It has to be approved by the title company, so we still have a title insurance. And we've also had people as well sign in U.S. embassies. I don't know detail in exact each country what they have to go through, but we really rely on the title company to make sure, however we're going to be signing our documents, that they're okay with it. And we get our title insurance. But that's a good question, and we've never had a problem getting someone signed. So I hope I answered that.
All right. Is there any exceptions for cash to close in the U.S. less than 30 days? Most borrowers do not feel comfortable to send the cash to close to the U.S. without an approval. Also, many borrowers do not have U.S. account, and most banks require a borrower to be present in the U.S. to open an account.
That is a good question, and I understand where you're at. The last one I had was a Florida one, and we basically said, you really need to have the account opened. And I think some of these banks now, U.S. banks that are still regulated, you can open accounts remotely because, like I said, I've never had a problem. The one that we had a little pushback on recently, they said, "Oh, we don't have an account in the U.S. We're just going to wire it into the close." We said, "Well, I think it's fairly easy." They had an account the next day. So I think a lot of times it might just be you need to ask where you can open up in a lending institution, and that's really up to the borrower.
And a lot of these banks are international as well, Steve.
Oh, that's a good point, John. Yes, so there are a lot of times there's banks or related banks to international institutions as well. So, like I said, never really had a problem. I've never not closed a loan because of the institution in the U.S. Domiciled account. Never had an issue with that.
Do we do jumbo loans?
Do we ever?
Do we ever? It's funny that you say that. I'll just give you guys a little taste of that here. Hang on just 2 seconds. Right now in our current pipeline, I'll just read off the loan amounts at the top. Largest one now currently is $2 million, and then we have 2 1.9s, 3 1.8s, 3 4 1.5. So those are just current loans. So yes, we do loans up to $3 million. If you have ones higher than that, we can reach out to some more Wall Street partners to see if we can do it. But we kind of like to think of ourselves as kind of an expert too in the super conforming or jumbo product. And also a lot of those deals, in fact, I think the $2 million one too is a bank statement loan. Oh, I'll give you another tidbit. I had 2 loans approved this week. Both were debt service coverage ratio loans. One was 1.5 and the other one was, I think, 1.2. So we're not scared to do larger loans under those programs as well. It's all about the whole package, getting the whole story where we have an understanding around it. And obviously the borrower's, the benefit to the borrower and the ability to repay. So good question, and thank you for that.
Okay, and we've got several questions on, so I'll combine it into one for you. LTV, minimum, maximum loan amounts, and can we do asset depletion?
Yes, we do have asset depletion. Our calculator for that is 120 months. Obviously, there's a little bit of adjustment, whether it's cash, retirement account, or stocks and bonds. It's basically liquid 180 and then 70. But if you are retirement age, we can usually move the 70 up to 80 as well. High loan amounts that we post up to $3 million is at 65 on a purchase. That's LTV. Currently, we're doing LTVs on purchase money loans up to 85. We're hoping to go higher at that at some point. That's on our standard product. I can give you, if we want to talk just strictly about the foreign national, currently the foreign national one, the high is at 65. And once again, the reason is there's a little higher risk with those files. We anticipate that going a little higher as well. It's funny that the foreign nationals, the money never seems to be a problem. So I don't know if did that answer them all, Rose? I'm not. There were quite a few in there.
I think that answered everything. What about someone with an A1 or an A2 visa?
I'm sorry, what visa is it?
A1 and A2.
Okay, I'm just off the top of my head.
They would fall under our expanded product and not our foreign national product.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's under our non-permanent resident alien, and I mentioned that before because on that product, those people typically have scores as well. That's another thing on the foreign national. It's the only program out of the 4 that we have doesn't require a credit score. So we would treat someone who's a non-permanent resident alien on, as John mentioned, on our expanded program, and I believe we go up to 75% on those. But we look, if you've got a really good one and you need to go 80 on it, we make deviations to our guidelines all the time. We just have to have an understanding of the borrower, what the benefit is, his ability to pay us back. We look at everything in the file and we make exceptions all the time.
Okay, and I'm looking, and I think that answers all of the general questions. So do you guys have any closing comments?
Well, I appreciate the time today that everybody that called in and listened to the call. John, I thank you for doing that. Rose, thank you for setting it up. We're definitely here to help you out. We're expecting as a company to do potentially as many as 80 loans just our second month out since the environment we're currently in. So we have a lot of money to lend, and we'd love to partner up with you and do business. So thank you for calling in today.
Yeah, and I'll say the same thing. Thank you all for joining us. It's everybody's really busy, but we do think it's really important to understand that you need to know what you can offer your referral sources to increase their book of business as well as your own. And I think that we will absolutely be that company that's going to make that happen for you.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you want some more information on our foreign national programs, specific guidelines, etc., go ahead and visit LendSure.com and click in the foreign national program. There's a link in there that says program guidelines or highlights. Go ahead and click on that, and that's going to give you some more detailed information. Thank you so much for joining us here today.